Once upon a time there was a peasant. He had a hard life, working all year round, little better off than a slave, and with no say in what went on. He was diseased, he was downtrodden, and he was dirty. Who on earth would want to have been a medieval peasant?
Bless your shirt.
Being a peasant in the Middle Ages must qualify as the worst job in history. But of course we're only guessing, because being peasants, they didn't leave behind much record of their existence. For all their cunning, surely peasants were still nothing more than slaves. In the same way that the lord of the manor had to provide military service to the king, the peasants had to provide the lord of the manor with so many days' labour in return for the land they held from him. Historians have given this arrangement the catchy title of feudal burden. But just how much of a burden were these feudal duties? For example, the peasants who ploughed these fields 600 or 700 years ago bore one of the heaviest feudal burdens in the kingdom. That is to say, they had to work for the lord of the manor for something like 50 to 60 days in the year to provide their accommodation and pay their taxes. Nowadays, most of these fields are occupied by the BMW car plant. Now, to pay for their rent and taxes today, an assembly line worker has to work for something like 80 days in the year. That's nearly a month longer than the worst off medieval peasants. What's more, the feudal arrangement was a two-way thing. The lord had responsibilities to his peasants. In fact, twice a year he was supposed to lay on feasts for them, as a sort of thank you. I can't remember the last time the taxman took me out for slap-up dinner, or a picnic. But I'm still a bit nervous about what they had to eat. It's this. Pottage. Evidently the recipe for pottage is take anything and put it into a pan of water and boil it up for 2 hours. Now, the reason you have to boil everything you pick out of the fields for 2 hours is because they used human excrement on the fields. So even lettuce had to be boiled, which made the salads rather soggy. Anyway, let's try the pottage. Well, it's pretty disgusting. But you could have cheered it up, I suppose, with a few herbs, maybe even some garlic. They also had an instant form of pottage, and you could take this into the fields with you, and then you could liquefy it with a bit of beer and eat that if you wanted to. Anyway, the good news about being a peasant was that you got to drink plenty of beer. They didn't have hops until 1420, when they were imported from Flanders. So before that, you had to flavour the beer with other things, like bog myrtle, this one's flavoured with. It's basically the same sort of stuff. Let's have a taste of that. Of course, they tended to drink alcoholic drinks rather than water, because the water was usually not very drinkable. Oh, that's very nice, actually.